Canned food, fast, convenient, cheap. But do you know, behind those delicious cans of soup, tuna, sausages, there are hidden unpredictable risks. Especially for the elderly, when the body is more sensitive. Just a little salt, a little preservative, or a heavy metal could be the spark for heart disease, kidney disease, diabetes, and even cancer. Today, we will learn together 7 most dangerous canned foods. Old age is the basic stage that can enter the natural cycle of decline. Organs in the body, such as the heart, liver, kidneys, digestive system, or immune system no longer function as smoothly as before. Therefore, a packaged diet plays an extremely important role in protecting health, maintaining clarity, and prolonging life. Many elderly people think that just eating enough nutrients is good. But in fact, the quality of food and the way it is processed are the deciding factors. One of the biggest problems today is the use of canned food. Canned food is everywhere on the market, from supermarkets, markets, convenience stores, to even food support packages. People love this type of food because it is convenient, easy to preserve, and can be kept for a long time without spoiling. For many families, especially those who do not have much time to cook, the food quickly becomes a medicine box. However, behind the convenience are hidden dangers to health, especially for the elderly. People who have weaker bodies are easily affected by toxins, preservatives, and unhealthy ingredients in food. The first notable point is the extremely high salt-sodium content in many types of cans. Salt not only helps preserve food, but also creates a rich flavor. But for the elderly, eating a lot of salt is a double-edged sword. Too much salt causes pressure, aggravates the condition of the blood vessels, causes edema, and even leads to stroke. Just a can of rich fish or a small package of canned meat. The amount of salt has exceeded the continuous recommended limit of the World Health Organization, WHO. In addition to salt, canned foods also contain a lot of preservatives, colorants, flavorings, and stabilizers that the elderly body can hardly metabolize. The liver and kidneys, which have decreased function with age, have to work harder to eliminate toxins. As a result, they are susceptible to damage, causing toxic liver disease, kidney failure, or metabolic disorders. There are also studies that show that long-term consumption of canned foods increases the risk of cancer due to residual preservatives and chemical compounds. Another dangerous factor is BPA, bisphenol A, a chemical often found in the lining of speaker cans. BPA can complete the food formula, especially when the food is acidic, such as canned tomatoes or canned fireworks. When entering the body, BPA acts as an endocrine disruptor, affecting hormones, increasing the risk of bone, diabetes, and even breast or prostate cancer. For young children, the immune system can still resist to some extent, but in the elderly, BPA is a silent danger. We also cannot ignore the amount of sugar and bad fat in some types of cans. The elderly are at high risk of diabetes, high blood fat, and arterial disease. If you regularly eat canned foods containing a lot of sugar, fried oil, and refried foods, your body will quickly fall into a state of declining health. Myocardial infarction, Alzheimer's, all increase significantly. It is worth mentioning that many elderly people in cities often have the habit of storing canned foods for convenience. They think that it is a way to eat quickly, neatly, and with enough nutrients. But in fact, it is shortening their life expectancy, especially in families with elderly people living alone. Cooking is less important, making canned food more likely to become the main choice. Canned food is not completely bad, but it is only safe when used in limited mode and choosing the right type. In this video, we will learn together about 7 types of canned food that are extremely dangerous for the health of the elderly, things that, even though they do not know, many people still accidentally use every day. After that, I will also introduce 2 types of cans that are relatively safe, can be used as a substitute in necessary cases. This is not just a matter of eating, but also the key to helping the elderly maintain long-term health, avoid dangerous chronic diseases, and live a healthier, more alert life. 4. Canned soup, salt hider in daily meals. When it comes to canned soup, many elderly people often think that this is a light, easy to digest, and nutritious choice. In fact, canned soup is one of the foods with the highest salt content in the entire processing industry. An average can of chicken soup or vegetable soup can contain from 700 to 1,200 milligrams of sodium, equivalent to 30 to 50% of the recommended daily salt intake for the elderly. Not to mention, there are cream soups, thick cream soups, that also contain saturated fat and refined flour, which not only burden the cardiovascular system, but also increase the risk of increased blood sugar after meals. For young people, occasionally eating a can of canned soup may not have immediate consequences. But for the elderly, regular use will quickly worsen existing diseases. High blood pressure, heart failure, edema. Many patients are hospitalized due to sudden hypertension caused by a diet rich in processed foods, such as canned soup. In addition to salt, canned soup also contains MSG, synthetic flavors and thickeners to maintain flavor and viscosity after being stored for many months. This inadvertently causes the elderly to absorb more chemical additives, which are factors that increase the risk of digestive disorders, difficulty sleeping, and even chronic inflammation in the intestines. If you need a quick meal, the elderly can cook a pot of fresh soup or soup with vegetables, adding a little chicken or lean fish. It only takes about 20 minutes, but the nutritional value and safety are much higher than a can of soup in the cupboard. 5. Canned fruit, sweet but dangerous. Fruit is considered a symbol of health. Therefore, many older people often believe that canned fruit is as healthy as fresh fruit. This is a very common misconception. Canned fruit is often preserved in a concentrated sugar solution called sugar syrup. Each serving can contain 20 to 30 grams of sugar, equivalent to 5 to 7 teaspoons. This amount of sugar, when consumed by the elderly, will quickly increase blood sugar and increase the risk of insulin resistance. For people with type 2 diabetes, eating canned fruit is almost a blow to the blood sugar control system. Not only stopping at sugar, the processing also depletes vitamin C and antioxidants in fruit. What remains is mainly sugar, empty calories, and a little fiber. In other words, instead of receiving the benefits of vitamins and minerals, the elderly are just consuming a dessert containing a lot of sugar. Another factor that few people pay attention to maintain color and flavor, some canned fruits are also added with sulfite preservatives. For sensitive people, sulfites can cause difficulty breathing, headaches, and allergies. Elderly people have weak immune systems, and regular consumption of this substance can increase the risk of chronic inflammation, affecting the respiratory and cardiovascular systems. So what is the solution? If you want to eat canned fruit, choose the type that clearly states packed in natural water, no added sugar. However, it is best to eat fresh seasonal fruit because they provide enough vitamins, natural enzymes, and fiber without added sugar or additives. 6. Carbonated soft drinks and canned drinks. Silent killers. One of the most popular canned products that many elderly people also unintentionally consume is carbonated soft drinks or canned energy drinks. Although they know that these are unhealthy drinks, many people still maintain the habit of using them because they quickly quench thirst or get used to it. The problem is, a 330 milliliters can of soda can contain up to 35 grams of sugar, the equivalent of 9 teaspoons. For the elderly, drinking one can is like consuming the entire recommended daily sugar intake in just a few minutes. Liquid sugar is more easily absorbed than solid sugar, causing blood glucose levels to spike immediately after drinking. In addition to causing diabetes and obesity, carbonated soft drinks also contain phosphoric acid, a substance that can reduce bone density when used for a long time. Older people are already at risk of osteoporosis and bone fractures. Adding this acid only makes bones weaken faster. In addition, many types of diet soft drinks, that is, sugar-free but containing artificial sweeteners, such as aspartame, sucralose, are also not safe. Research shows that sweeteners can disrupt the intestinal microflora, affect metabolism, and even increase the risk of dementia in the elderly when used for a long time. This is a reason why many experts call canned soft drinks silent killers. The elderly should limit them as much as possible. Instead, they can choose filtered water, mineral water, or diluted fresh fruit juice. 7. Packaged instant foods, convenient but at the expense of health. Finally, in the list of 7 types of canned foods that are dangerous for the elderly, we cannot ignore instant noodles and packaged fast foods. These are extremely popular products in Asia, including Vietnam, and many elderly people still use them regularly because of long-standing habits An average instant noodle package contains up to 1,800 to 2,000 milligrams of sodium, nearly double the recommended daily salt intake for the elderly. Not to mention, the accompanying seasoning packet also contains trans fat, MSG, and colorants. Consuming too much sodium causes the heart and kidneys to work too hard, easily leading to high blood pressure, kidney failure, and stroke. In addition, noodles are often fried in oil at high temperatures, producing harmful oxidants, increasing the risk of chronic inflammation. With the elderly's weak digestive system, eating instant noodles many times a week can cause digestive disorders and difficulty absorbing nutrients. Although convenient, instant noodles should only be considered a temporary hunger-fighting solution, not a substitute for main meals. If they really want to eat, the elderly can only use half of the seasoning packet, combined with fresh vegetables, lean meat, or eggs to balance nutrients. When it comes to canned foods, most elderly people often think that they just need to limit their intake. However, the problem is not just about eating a lot or eating a little, but that the ingredients in these foods often have a silent, long-term, and difficult-to-detect impact. This silent accumulation is a dangerous cause because it makes many people subjectively think, a little bit is probably fine, but when accumulated over months and years, the elderly's already weakened bodies are even more susceptible to erosion. 1. High salt content and the risk of blood pressure. One of the biggest problems with canned foods is the amount of salt, sodium added for preservation. For young people, the body is still able to regulate and excrete excess salt through the kidneys. But for the elderly, kidney function has decreased, blood vessels have lost elasticity. Eating too much salt causes the body to retain water, increase blood volume, thereby increasing blood pressure. Studies show that older adults who consume more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day, a common level in processed foods, are twice as likely to develop high blood pressure as those who consume less than 1,500 milligrams. More worryingly, high blood pressure does not cause immediate symptoms. So many older adults continue to eat canned soup, canned sardines, or jarred pickles without realizing that they are putting their bodies in danger. It is only when they have headaches, dizziness, or even strokes that the consequences become apparent. 2. Hidden sugar in canned sweets. Many older adults like to eat canned fruit, jam, or condensed milk because they think it is sweet and provides vitamins. But in fact, in a can of fruit soaked in syrup, the amount of sugar can be 2 to 3 times the recommended daily requirement. The sugar here is no longer natural sugar from fruit, but refined sugar, which when absorbed quickly will cause blood sugar to spike. For the elderly, the pancreas is not functioning well, the ability to produce insulin is reduced. Consuming too much sugar can easily cause type 2 diabetes or make the disease worse. Sugar also contributes to accelerating the inflammatory process in the body, causing atherosclerosis and increasing the risk of memory loss. Therefore, a box of sweet fruit can hide a small danger. 3. Saturated fat and reused frying oil. Some canned foods such as canned bacon, sausages, or prepackaged fried chicken often contain a lot of saturated fat and trans fat. For the elderly, this is a silent enemy of the cardiovascular system. When these fats enter the body, they increase bad cholesterol, LDL, and reduce good cholesterol, HDL, causing blood vessels to quickly harden and narrow. Just eating a small portion of canned sausage a few times a week for a few months is enough to increase blood fat levels. This explains why many elderly people, even though they do not eat much fried food outside, still have high blood fat and fatty liver because they are consuming a large amount of hidden fat in processed foods. 4. Chemicals from food packaging. A little known but extremely worrying factor is the chemicals in the lining of metal or plastic cans. For example, many food cans are coated with plastic containing BPA, bisphenol A. Many studies have shown that BPA can leak into food, especially when it can be stored for a long time or is hot. BPA is an endocrine disruptor, affecting hormones and immunity. For the elderly, this can cause osteoporosis, memory loss, and even increase the risk of cancer. This is a hidden risk, because even though we eat less but eat for a long time, the amount of chemicals accumulated will increase. 5. Effects on the digestive system. Canned foods often lack natural fiber, which is essential for the digestive system of the elderly. Instead, they contain a lot of preservatives, additives, and grease. Eating them for a long time will lead to constipation, bloating, and indigestion. For the elderly who already have slow intestinal motility, this condition can easily make them tired, reduce their appetite, and lead to malnutrition. In addition, some types of canned fish or canned meat also have the risk of being infected with Clostridium botulinum bacteria that cause botulism poisoning, which is very dangerous. Although this case is rare when it occurs, it is especially dangerous for the elderly because the immune system is weak and difficult to fight. 6. The misconception that eating a little is okay. The key point that makes canned foods a trap for the elderly is the thought that eating a little is probably not harmful. In fact, eating less does not cause immediate consequences, but the elderly often have repetitive habits. For example, opening a can of sardines every day, or drinking condensed milk regularly. It is the long-term accumulation that makes the big difference. For example, a spoonful of canned soup can contain up to 800 to 1,000 milligrams of sodium. If you eat a few other types of food during the day, the total sodium intake can double the safe threshold. The consequences are not acute poisoning, but high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart failure, silent but difficult to treat diseases in the elderly,